Hey everyone, welcome to the Stride to Freedom podcast. My name is Russell Benaroya and I'm the co-founder of Stride Services, a virtual back office bookkeeping and accounting firm serving hundreds of clients around the United States. This podcast is designed to help small business owners focus on growth and innovation. In other words, focus on those things that inspired you to start your business in the first place. We call it your genius zone. We do our job on this podcast when business owners feel like they have the trust and confidence to build the right team of partners around them that will help them grow. Thanks for joining. Let's go. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Stride to Freedom podcast. I am your host, Russell Benaroya. It is a pleasure to see all of you and speak to all of you today. We have a great show in store. Just as a reminder, what is the Stride to Freedom podcast? The Stride to Freedom podcast is designed to help business leaders get and stay in their genius zone. What is your genius zone? It is that thing that you do that is seemingly effortless for you, where you lose track of time, when you are truly achieving your highest and best use, where people say, how do you do that? And so what we do on the show is bring people on that can help business leaders and business owners achieve that state of genius, achieve that space where what they are doing is truly making the kind of impact they set out to make when they started their business. The show is sponsored by Stride Services. I'm a co-founder of Stride Services. We are a back office bookkeeping and accounting firm, and our genius zone is helping business leaders use data to make better business decisions. And if we can do that, we believe, right, we are helping business leaders increase their level of confidence in the decisions that they make to run their business and achieve their dreams. Okay, great. Let's go. I am super excited to welcome Melissa Lamson to the show today. Hi, Melissa.
Hi. Thank you for having me, Russell.
So great to have you. Melissa is the co-founder of Recreate, and we're going to spend time talking about Recreate, but just as a little sprinkling of a hint, what Melissa has enabled is the building of a community for women over 40 to come into a program to help catalyze their starting and launching a business. And that's really awesome because oftentimes women over 40, and we can talk more broadly about opportunities and drawbacks for women, for female entrepreneurs, they often lack capital, access, money, time. And so Recreate has really done a phenomenal job of developing a space to welcome female entrepreneurs into a supportive community. And they just graduated their first cohort. So we're going to hear a lot about that. Congratulations, Melissa, on that.
Thank you. I'm so excited for all of them.
And we're going to talk about Chris Lamberg and how Chris Lamberg was the top-rated demo day presenter and how she won some capital and she was on the news. And so there's a lot of really good attention that has come from that. And for me, it's really important to do this show because helping business leaders get and stay in their genius zone crosses all lines, crosses all demographic and socioeconomic lines. We are here to help leaders rise, and Melissa is certainly doing that for the community that she serves. So let's jump in. Melissa, you just graduated your first class of Action Tank cohorts.
Yeah, we call them members.
Members,
Action Tank members.
Mm-hmm. Action Tank members. Yeah. Congratulations. Tell me about, let's work backwards. Tell me about the pinnacle day and what happened.
Sure. So we had our first pitch event, as you said, and we invited members of the community who are supportive of entrepreneurs and who are also potentially excited to become entrepreneurs. And they all came, and we had 8 women pitch their businesses. They were 3-minute pitches. And then they were able to get Q&A and chat a bit with our judges panel, if you will. And I say it like this because they're not very judgy. They're actually just very supportive women who have been really successful, either as entrepreneurs or as angel investors or partners in businesses. And they sat and asked some really important questions to help the women just fully flesh out their ideas in the pitch event. And then they chose one person as a winner, and we gave them $2,500 towards their business, startup of their business.
Tell me about Chris and why she was selected as the winner.
Chris is so great. So she just, in general, she just has such incredible positive energy. She's had this idea. She came to us in the beginning, 6 months ago, and said, I've always, I just hate my tennis bags. She's been a big tennis player all her life. And she was like, I just hate tennis bags. They slump over. They're not easy. I replace them every year because they're not really high quality. I want to develop a great tennis bag. And we were sort of like, well, okay. Neither one of us had that kind of experience in our backgrounds in terms of developing sort of a fashion line or a product like that. And we said, but we'll make it work for you. And so she has gotten to the point where she's actually designing the flats, and she has the prototype in progress. And she has a whole bunch of people already ready to buy the bag and funding for the bag. And so she's like really far. But the idea is a customizable tennis bag. And so it'll have like lots of pockets and different straps and different colors. And it also stands up, which apparently, I don't play tennis, but apparently not many tennis bags actually stand up on the court. They kind of slump over. So yeah, she's really excited about it. And the judges obviously were too.
It's great. Tell me about, for some reason, I keep wanting to say recreate and not recreate. And
okay, you can.
I think I could say that too, right? Like recreating, when I think about recreating, I think about action, I think about joy, I think about movement and motion and change. And I don't know, maybe that works as well too, but I'm going to stick with recreate if you'd like.
Yeah, well, no, it's interesting you mentioned that, Russell, because in the beginning, that's the whole thing. We said, it's about recreating yourself and reinventing yourself. But, oh my gosh, there's the double entendre?
Entendre, yeah, that's the expression.
Recreate. And we also really need to have fun while we're building. One of the things about women is that we stress about a lot of things, right? And we worry about a lot of things, and we fret about a lot of things. And especially if we're building a business for the first time, that's an incredibly overwhelming venture. And so we said, we really want to make this also fun. So we bookend the workshops and all the work we're doing together with some fun events. So we had we went to a jewelry store and tried on some fun jewelry and had some wine. And then we've we rented out a pole dancing studio and did a pole dancing class. And we went to a smash room the night before the whole pitch competition just to let some, energy out. And so that helps us bond as a group. That helps us, continue to build community and build trust. But it also just gives us a chance to let go and have some fun and relax. And as you know, when you can relax and have fun, you can be more creative, and then you're more innovative, and then you develop better ideas.
Why start Recreate in the first place? What was the opportunity or problem that you saw to solve?
Yeah, I've been a leadership coach for over 20 years, and I have really a roster of women who work internally as, basically from director and above. And I hear constantly, the disappointments, the discouragement, the exhaustion, the stress. There's also a lot of positives too, but all of that kind of, the overqualified but underutilized, especially as we get older, it's sort of like there really is a glass ceiling. And then there's also kind of this, what do I want to really be doing with my life? I've made a bunch of money. I've done a lot of great stuff internally. Maybe it's time for me to be thinking about something else. And then because of the pandemic, of course, there was a lot of 2.3 million women left the workforce, and they were kind of like, well, what's next? I want to do something that's meaningful and has impact. And then empty nesters, which we also know, and then entrepreneurs who had to pivot or, decide how they want to grow or scale their business differently. And so given all of those women, we went out to the market and said, what do you really need? We have an idea that might serve you well, but what would you really need? And that's how we formed Recreate. It's also happens to be the model that we teach. So getting customer validation and doing your market research to be able to build something. Yeah. But we did that too. And we found that it was that to have a platform like this, which is really not available, particularly, certainly not to an all women's group, And then also that particular age group where, we're impatient, we're experienced, we know we have a lot of knowledge that we can leverage in the group, but we maybe never built a business before or scaled a business before. And so it's important to really serve that niche.
You mentioned on your website that women over 45 are the fastest
growing group of
entrepreneurs. And that was a very striking statement. I'm curious, like, where you found that data, and just how is that evident today? How are we seeing that growth show up in the world today?
Yeah. Well, I'll send you the link. It's from Forbes. Forbes is doing an amazing job talking about, women in entrepreneurs and women in business and so forth. They have the whole 50 over 50 project or program that they're doing a lot of press around. So it's interesting. I mean, I know it anecdotally, and then obviously from the statistics that we keep up with, but just seeing that a lot of women are starting businesses. I mean, they're actually starting businesses 3 times more often than men are, women generally. Women over 45 becoming the fastest group of entrepreneurs. I think a lot of that has to do with, the leaving the workforce during the pandemic for sure. And just saying, I don't want to be I don't want to have my job be just sort of all encompassing. And I really want to do what I want to do and how I want to do it and have some flexibility around it and be able to also balance that with, home and family and partners and so forth. And that was even more emphasized during the pandemic as people were working at home. They had a lot to juggle. And as women, we feel a lot of responsibility for that. So it fell on our shoulders, but we also took it on our shoulders to manage that well. And so I think at some point, maybe they were at a breaking point, but maybe they were also at an aha moment to say, I gotta make this work differently.
What do you either know through your conversations or speculate that the women that participated in the members that participated in this first action tank learned about themselves through this process? What are some things they learned about themselves, you believe?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I would say the biggest learning is that it doesn't matter if someone else has this idea or has had this idea or is doing this idea. It's about, how do I follow my instinct and then follow that up with knowledge and data to know that there's still a need in the market for what I have to offer and that I can do it better or differently, right? So that's a really big learning. And then the other piece is that I'm okay with iteration and change. If this idea has to evolve and change a bit over the 6 months, that's a completely normal process. Every business has, evolved and iterated and changed. And so they really realize that if they had an idea in the beginning and if it's changed a bit over the course of the 6 months, that's really okay. And that they are more comfortable with that ambiguity, if you will, at the outset.
Do you think those are perspectives that can be brought back into their lives outside of business?
That's a good question. Maybe. Yeah. I mean, I think that is it requires a big mindset shift
Totally.
As you know, right? Building a business and it's painful sometimes, right? And you're scared and you're nervous and you're like, was anybody going to care about this or like me? Or, and then is this going to be successful? Am I going to make money? And those are all important questions. And so that's the whole reason why we built Recreate, was really to focus on that mindset, evolution, if you will, and also just provide an environment where we can take as much of that overwhelm or nervousness or stress out of it so that they can just focus on, to your point, their genius and what they really want to build and offer the world.
We often get so caught up in our stories, right? Between our 2 ears. We live in a world of fabricating these scenarios, most of which will never happen. But it's like, oh my God, what if this business doesn't work? Or am I going to run out of money? Or and da 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 da.
Right.
And it swirls and it swirls and it swirls. And I think one of the greatest gifts of the vessel of a new business is learning how to manage oneself in and among the roller coaster of trying to get this fledgling business off the ground. And before you go and react with the crazy, which we all do, I've got a lot of crazy, ground that story with facts. And oftentimes the facts don't necessarily support the crazy. And this is where I think it is very, very applicable in our broader lives, because there's a lot of crazy in our lives, right? Whether it be how we're managing our families and our children and the future and our relationships. Mm-hmm. Knowing self-awareness. Yes, I've got a lot of stories, and
that's right.
I could tell an equally true story that's better, that serves me better, rather than the one that freaks me out and makes me anxious. And it's a lot easier when you have a community of supporters around you that are good sounding boards. And it sounds like that's what you helped facilitate.
You're exactly right. We offer group accountability or accountability groups that they meet in they can kind of decide, but at least every 2 weeks. And then I'll do coaching with them individually once a month. And a lot of those coaching sessions are about, okay, turn the volume down on the stories you're telling yourself.
Right.
If they're negative, right? It's just like turn it down or try to change the channel if you can, and then just keep persevering. Because, and I think to your point, Russell, it's really that acceptance. It's funny. My father always called it awfulizing when I grew up. It's like, Melissa, stop awfulizing, right?
That's funny.
I was like, that's such a great word. So I've sort of brought it back into my vocabulary. So it's like, the awfulizing is going to happen. And it's just like, how do we just keep going? Like knowing it's over there.
Well, I think you speak to that a bit on the website. You X out a lot of phrases. I don't know where to start. I'm too old. I don't have time. It's a clever mechanic on how you talk about the opportunity. Why was that important for you to communicate?
Yeah. Well, those are certainly the objections, Wow. I mean, that's the thing. When you start talking to, at least to this particular target group, women over 40, they have amazing ideas. All of the 8 projects are different and they're all incredible. I love all of them. And so, or actually there were 10 projects in total, 8 people pitched. So they're all great. And every time I talk to a woman about a great project, it's amazing. But then they immediately start to say, yeah, but I don't think I could do it. And I don't have time. And maybe I'm too old to start this. And, I don't have money and all of that. And so I wanted to kind of highlight that, like, look, these are just excuses. These are just, head trash. This is just awfulizing. Let's turn that around for you. Let's make it happen. Yeah. And to say that,
oh, go ahead.
Oh, I think it's important to say too, we validate all those ideas in the interview process. And if there's an idea that for some reason isn't a fit, we'll either, pass them on to someone else who we think could help them, or tell them, hey, go do this and this and that. Like one woman I spoke to, I said, look, go take 3 days by yourself on like a mountain and go just write down a whole bunch of stuff and get clear about what it is that you really want to do. So hopefully we can add value that way too, if they're not quite ready to come into the action tank.
If somebody is listening to this and trying to pattern match with other accelerators they've seen in the market, like maybe a Y Combinator or a Techstars, would you say that Recreate is like the Y Combinator for women over 40, or that's not an entirely symmetrical comparison?
No, I think that's true. I'm not sure if that accelerator focuses on early stage. So we're really focusing on early stage, pre-revenue, really looking for serious funding. And then we have the opportunity to be the funnel. In fact, the Arizona Commerce Authority has partnered with us this year because they have an accelerator program that really focuses mostly on funding, right? And getting funded. And so they can kind of funnel into their program when they're really ready to chase serious capital for their business. We're just really saying, hey, let's get this business solidified. Let's get you a business plan. Let's get you a timeline and a budget, and let's get this off the ground and running. And if we can get you, your first 10 or 20 clients in the door, terrific, so that you are making some revenue by the time you get out of it. Then that's really what we're looking at. So I don't know for sure if that's the goal of the other accelerators, but that's ours. And also the fun factor piece. We really want to emphasize that too.
Well, and Y Combinator and Techstars have fueled many businesses that you know very well, like Airbnb or Uber and others. So right. Their platform is really about accelerating the instantiation or the inception of the business idea and elevating the profile of those businesses to a group of investors that are right. eager and hungry to capitalize. But so I think that is, I'm speculating that's a little bit different here, in that maybe not all of the businesses that you're bringing into the fold are all about like venture. So maybe talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, for sure. So some of them are comfortable with self-funding. Others are interested in getting some sponsorship. Actually, we had 2 nonprofits were built with us, and they were relying on sponsorship and funding from that. I'm sorry, for like donations and sponsorship as for how they would fund a nonprofit. Yeah.
Got it. So the outcome is not about how do you capitalize this business. The outcome may be, hey, you as a entrepreneur have a solid plan, a clear value proposition, the pillars or foundation of the business building are in place. And that's now right. You have some level of confidence on, okay, what are the next steps to continue executing?
That's right. Like we can get you to 6-7 figures. And then if you really want to take it bigger than that, then we'll make introductions for you. And that's why we do the pitch event, is because they meet these women who have really gone after big capital. They are VCs, they are angel investors. And so that it goes from just mentorship to really possible serious money from those introductions.
Tell me about some of the other businesses that launched out of this first Action Tank.
Oh, sure. There's a resale shop, kind of like a Goodwill, but boutiqued, that provides job training for youth with disabilities. And her whole thing is really the job training component of it, but in the context of this resale shop. So that's really neat. Then there's a woman who is a travel concierge. And so she built a platform for women over 40, actually, who want to go on adventure trips and just spend more time. But they're feeling they want someone who really knows that time of life to be able to, build those trips for them. There's another woman who is building a dating platform. So she's writing a book and a workbook paired with that. And the purpose is like, how do I approach my dating life with a lot more intention? What do I want? Who am I? What should my partner be like? So for those who really are looking for long-term relationships, and it's a terrific idea, even though obviously it's a pretty big market. There's a lot of dating platforms out there, but she's really kind of nailed it in terms of her differentiation. Let's see. Then there was a leadership consultant who came up with a really interesting model or framework for leadership around, if you want to consider all of your employees leadership skills. So not only those with actual management responsibility or leadership responsibility, but how do you develop leadership skills in everyone? So it's a pretty cool framework as well.
What has been an unexpected challenge in getting Recreate off the ground that you hadn't anticipated? It's never quite as straight of a line up and to the right as we think it is to build new ventures.
Yeah. Good question. What has been an unexpected challenge? I think I underestimated how much work it is. So it's a lot of work. And so I've been just in the process of kind of getting a team together to help me execute. So I really need to be in that position of talking to potential members and talking to the press and talking to multipliers and partners to fill the action tanks and to continue to run them. By the way, we do have one running in the Bay Area coming up also in April. And then I'm in conversations with other city leads, as we call them, around the country to start action tanks in every state, which would be our goal eventually, is to run them there. And I need to be sort of present to do all of that. And then, there's so much back end stuff that I need support with. So I guess I'd say that. And so getting that team in place so that it all becomes a really well-oiled machine is great.
And is that your genius zone? Is your genius zone being on the front end of this, being out there, talking to sponsors and market leads? Where are you're in your highest and best use?
Well, it's funny that you say that because I actually discovered that about myself. I'm actually really good on the back end. I built our website. I'm great at, I'm fine with using new software tools. I love learning them. It's fun for me, but the genius zone is building those relationships and pulling those people together. What my biggest joy just Saturday night was to have, the editor-in-chief of the Phoenix Business Journal be like, oh, wow, I really wanted to meet the managing director of Golden Seeds. That's awesome. And for them to be connected and to be able to introduce all these incredible, generous, lovely humans who are doing amazing things for entrepreneurs to each other. And so if I can continue to do that and we get stronger and stronger as an entrepreneur community, we have more gender balance in that community, I will have achieved what I set out to do.
Was there something strategic about starting the first action tank in Phoenix, other than the fact that you live there? Is there something about Phoenix that made it, and maybe this is revisionist history, but like made it, it's a really good market to start in?
That's a good question, because maybe if I lived in Austin or Silicon, we actually moved here from the Bay Area. If I still live there, or in Austin or Denver, someplace where the entrepreneur community is really strong and really big, I don't know if there would have been as much opportunity or if I would have seen as much of a need. But here it's still just very fresh. It's growing. There is a really solid community here. I have good friends who are doing incredible things with Phoenix Startup Week, with Startup AZ Foundation. They all have similar names. I'm trying to remember it all. Arizona Commerce Authority, obviously, as I said. They're all just trying to do great things, and we're growing as a city. But I think that's exactly it. We have the opportunity to grow a lot more business here locally. And so that was one of my interests in starting this, is how can we get more women contributing to that economic growth, to that startup growth in the cities that maybe doesn't have as much of it.
What can we be doing as listeners to support female entrepreneurs in our community?
Love that question. Literally, if you're sitting around having a glass of wine or a cup of coffee with your friend and she says, gosh, I'd really love to X. I've been dreaming about Y. Then you go do it. Go talk to Melissa, go find out how you can do it. Go talk to the local agencies that support entrepreneurs. Go out there to any entrepreneur group and just talk about your idea and just start doing it. Because I guarantee that at least 50% of those ideas could turn into viable businesses.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Great advice. I want you to touch one more time on your expansion plan. So you said in April, you're launching an action tank in the Bay Area. Can you still hear me, by the way?
I can. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Great. You never know. Little technology blips here and there. Okay. So what else is
coming up?
Slated? Yeah.
Yeah. So we have one scheduled for Phoenix, and they're all hybrid models. So there's three live events in each action tank. And we had about half of the group fly in for those in Phoenix. So Phoenix and then the Bay Area are scheduled starting in April, and then working on Denver, working on Boston, getting those scheduled. Those would probably start in June.
And this is a 6-month commitment?
Correct.
Okay. And what else what other commitments are embedded in that? So it sounds like you got to be present some portion of the time. What else?
Yeah, you need to be present for the live events and then attend the accountability groups, which is a smaller pod of 3 or 4 or 5 women that you're, depending on the size of the group, and then the individual coaching. And there are 3 virtual classes. So there's funding options, there's legal advice in terms of trademarks and patents and setting up your entity. And then there's also tech tools. And so it's good if you, obviously, if you can attend those as well.
Unlike some of the other accelerators where you're accepted into the program and then that accelerator takes an equity stake in the business, your program asks the participant, should they be accepted to make an investment? They have to pay to participate. Is that somewhat circumstantial in where you're at right now in the journey of the idea? Or is that actually a really important part of the overall experience?
Yeah, we believe that it's an important part of the overall experience because when people invest money, they tend to be more committed. So it is, that's really important at the moment. It may be down the line that if there's an equity play, we'll see how it evolves. But right now, there's a payment that's made.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
And okay, so last question for you. What is something that you wish people asked you about Recreate or about you and all the DEI work that you do that they don't often ask you, but you'd love to share?
Okay. Oh my gosh, that's a hard question. What I wish people would ask me. Well, I guess, what is your real passion in all of this? And the bottom line is I want more women to be, I guess I see a lot of us, working long days, whether it's home, family, work, jobs for everybody else. And then we spend our evenings in front of Netflix, right? And I feel like that's such a waste of brain power and energy, not the working hard part, but the evening, just kind of decompressing time. And if we can find a way to balance that a bit more and just take some of our great ideas that we have that give us a lot of energy and happiness and get them out there in the world, that's the ultimate reason why I do this, is I'm just really passionate about people women particularly feeling happier and excited about their lives.
If somebody wanted to go and learn about Recreate right now, where would they go?
Yes, at recreatenow.org, or you can email me directly at info@recreatenow.org.
Terrific. Melissa, thank you so much. Such a pleasure to spend time with you today. You've definitely opened up a vehicle or a vessel of opportunity for women over the age of 40 to find themselves a community to realize these great ideas that they have, but for all the reasons we talked about, they tell stories about they don't have time or they don't have access or they're too old or whatever. And you're like, no, right? You can do this. And you've created a place to make that happen. And the results are showing. You have a cohort of members that just graduated. You've received some great media attention. You have new markets that you're expanding to. So thank you for all the work that you're doing and for helping create opportunities for entrepreneurship to thrive.
Thank you, Russell. It's been a pleasure. You're a great podcaster.
Well, thank you so much. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a great day. Appreciate you spending time on the Stride to Freedom podcast. We will see you next week. Bye, everyone.
Bye.